That's loud. Damn, it sounds good. All right, guys, so now that we are out of the R8 and back in the 392, what I thought we'd do today is simply talk about, is the 392 Wrangler worth the price increase over a similarly equipped Rubicon? So, like I said, that's what we're gonna do. So we'll go ahead, and the first thing that I feel like we should do is talk about what exactly do you get for the extra money, and then we'll get into kind of the more minutiae of the details, if you will. First things first, what I thought we'd do is just do a brief overview of the main differences from a 392 to a regular Rubicon. So first things first, obviously the bronze accents all over the exterior. So that's obviously something that is exclusive to the 392 that does not come on any standard Rubicon. Next is obviously the hood itself. Now some of you might be saying, oh, but the Gladiator Mojave has that hood. Correct, except that unlike the Mojave, this is actually functional, which you guys can see right here has the hydrograd system to take water if it comes in and kind of dump it out over here, and then there's the actual where it takes the air from the outside and meets it with the air intake. This is only available on the 392. You cannot get this on any other Wrangler model. Next, as far as exterior things go, is obviously I have different wheels, but on the standard 392 and as well as the Extreme Recon 392, you get bronze wheels. However, the standard wheel on the 392 is exclusive to the 392. You can't get it on any other model, whereas the Extreme Recon one, obviously you can get on both 392 as well as regular Rubicon. As you can see here, you get standard Fox shocks that are 2.0 Fox shocks, and obviously specifically designed suspension for the 392 to handle the extra weight, but that's something that, again, you don't get on the standard Rubicon unless you opt for the Extreme Recon package. Coming around to the back, obviously, the next biggest change is quad exhaust that, again, is only available on the 392. Next, in the interior, again, just gonna cover the main differences here. Steering wheel, you get bronze stitching, which you do not get on the regular Rubicon, as well as you guys can see, this steering wheel is more contoured. You get bigger bolsters here. You also, it cuts in more aggressively here, and it's thicker overall compared to the standard Rubicon wheel. And you get these little paddles, which really aren't really paddles. You just get kind of like, you know, half little buttons there. But again, that is a difference, as well as obviously the exhaust button. You don't get that on any other Wrangler except the 392. And this right here in regular Rubicons, this is red. It's a kind of a matte, like satin finish red. In this, the only way the 392 comes is in this kind of metallic gray here that you guys can see. So that's another difference. The seats themselves, obviously you get the Rubicon 392 stitched into the seat. And again, more bronze stitching overall, which again, exclusive to the 392. And the seat itself, in the driver and passenger seat, you do get a little bit more side bolstering compared to the standard Wrangler Rubicon. I mean, just that sound alone is worth more money. I mean, a Jeep that sounds like that, I mean, come on. That's definitely worth more money for sure. I mean, that's just nuts, right? Now, I probably should start off by saying, obviously, that, I mean, I feel like this should go without saying, but I'm sure someone's gonna mention it. Obviously, we're only talking about, you know, is it worth the extra money if you can afford a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 vehicle? If you can't do that, then obviously it doesn't matter if it's worth the money or not. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Getting back to the sound, I mean, Jeeps are made for fun anyways, so the whole reason you buy a Jeep is, I mean, it's all for fun, right? You take the doors off, the top off, fold the windshield down, go off-roading. So having that sound and the dumb performance that goes along with it for a Jeep just adds to the whole experience and character of what the Jeep is. It's just a fun vehicle. You know, if you're a muscle car or just a sports car enthusiast, a car enthusiast, you're not just into off-road vehicles, then this kind of combines all of that into one car. You can have your muscle car and your off-road vehicle wrapped into one, because this is very traditional muscle car. Fast in a straight line, doesn't stop that well, doesn't handle that well. That's very traditional muscle car. So that's what this feels like, and it's just a lot of fun. Now, the price difference between a 392 Rubicon and a Wrangler Rubicon, spec similarly, you know, leather seats, the front cameras, all that stuff, is about $19,000 to $20,000, give or take. Build them up to where they're equal to the same price. You know, it's about $66,500 for a regular one, $86 grand for this. When I bought mine, this was $77,000, so, you know, only an $11,000 difference at the time when I ordered my vehicle. Is it worth that extra $20,000? So sound alone, again, that's worth something, because no matter what exhaust you put on your V6, your 4-cylinder turbo, or the diesel, it's not going to sound like that. As well as also just having the ability to close and open the valves. Again, that is worth some amount of money, in my opinion. And then the other things that change that is also the fact that, you know, this does ride better than a equivalent regular Rubicon with the V6 or the 4-cylinder. It kind of dials out just a little bit more of the imperfections of the road. It just rides a little softer, which I think is a good thing, because on longer road trips it's just kind of a little softer, a little silkier on the road. As well as, you know, constantly interacting with the bespoke steering wheel. That's pretty cool as well. And honestly, with the extra power, you're never going to have that worry of passing power on the highway. When you're on a road trip, you just know no matter what, you put your foot down, you're going to be able to get past the 18-wheeler or whatever it is that you're trying to pass. Now, as far as, like, say, gas mileage and things like that goes, you're not getting a gigantic difference. It's not, you know, where one gets 25 miles to the gallon and one gets 10. It's not that big of a difference. Dude's got a Gladiator setup. That's pretty sweet. You know, it's not that big of a difference to where you're like, oh man, you know, I can't deal with that. I mean, just ridiculous. In the city, I average about 13 miles to the gallon in this thing, you know, which is probably, again, in town when you're talking about stoplights, getting up to about 40, 50 miles an hour, then coming back to a stop, you know, all that sort of stuff. That type of driving. A comparable Rubicon with the V6 or the 4-cylinder is probably going to get in the city somewhere around 16 to 17. And this is, by the way, this is with 35s on the standard gearing. So this is the non-Recon package. It's on 35s, but the standard gearing, and it's getting 13 miles to the gallon. So you're not going to be getting, you know, double the MPG on the V6, which, and, you know, on the highway when we were cruising with this thing, again with 35s, when we went up to Moab, this thing got, I think the best we got was like 18 or maybe 19 MPG on the highway, just cruising at like 75 miles an hour. So obviously we could have gotten it better if we had slowed it down, but just cruising at 75 miles an hour, we were getting around, I want to say it was around 19. I'll leave a link up to the video if you guys want to check it out. Is realistically only going to be, compared to the V6, only going to be at best 5 miles per gallon difference, at best. You know, running stock gearing, stock 410s and auto and 35s with the V6. It's not going to be a gigantic difference. For that slight sacrifice in gas mileage, you get just a much more fun and engaging Jeep to drive. You know, so you can take it out to the desert, have a blast, you know, Baja around out there, and it's a lot more fun because you have the power and you have the sound that go along with it. And now, you know, the suspension isn't really set up for doing the high-speed stuff. Ask me how I know. Overall, it's way more fun, and I think you can't really put a price tag on that, but, you know, for how much longer are you going to be able to buy vehicles with engines like this, with the way things are going, you know? So for me, I think this is totally worth it. It's more comfortable on the highway, granted not by a huge difference, but it is a little bit more comfortable around town on the highway. You get crazy passing power, you just get crazy power in general for a Jeep, a fantastic sound, not awful gas mileage for what you would assume a constant all-wheel drive V8 Jeep would get, because you can't put it in two-wheel drive. It just stays in all-wheel drive all the time. There is no making it two-wheel drive. So for me, the small differences on the outside, plus the crazy power, the amazing sound, and just being able to bomb around, you know, rock crawling, as well as do some, you know, fun stuff out in the sand or the desert, just adds to the whole experience. And again, if you can only have one car, you know, I'm fortunate enough to where I can have multiple cars, but if you can only have one, and you're deciding, well, I really do want a Jeep, but man, I also really want a muscle car, this combines the two. I mean, it'll be just as fast as most common Mustangs and Camaros that you run into out on the street, in a straight line to 60. Past that, totally different story. Yet you can still go off-road and still have a fantastic time. Like I said, for me, it's totally worth the extra money because it's so much more fun. It adds to the character of the Jeep, and you do get some functional things as well. And obviously, towing-wise, you know, again, with that V8 power, which would you rather tow 3,500 pounds on? Because this doesn't tow more than a V6, but if you put 3,500 pounds behind both of them, which one's going to tow it more easily? This one, because it's got about 200 pound-feet of torque more. So anyways, like I said, guys, those are my thoughts on it. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. You know, do you guys think it's worth the extra money? Would you take one of these over a V6 or a diesel or even a 4xe? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.